Rise, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. This is our first thing. This is our first public stream on the YouTube Spaces, and this is our first Ask a Lich monthly Q&A. Just to set the scene here, our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/unMadeGaming get their questions priority answered. So we have a little room in the Discord exclusively for patrons, so they can ask these questions. They will get priority. We will be taking live questions, and we'll be adding them to a document. So if we don't get to your questions today, we will get to them in the future. So more incentive for you to watch more episodes, I guess. I don't know, that wasn't planned, but that works. Cool. As always, if you guys like what we do here and you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is over on our Patreon. As I said, patreon.com/unMadeGaming. It'll be in the description of this actual video. And while you're down there, make sure you join us in the Discord, be a part of the community, be a part of the conversation. Another good way to support the channel is by subscribing here on YouTube and becoming a YouTube member. For $5 a month. It's like a Twitch membership, but better because I get more of it. It's not a 50-50 split. It's a 70-30 split, which is nice. It's real fancy. Wow, that came out backwards, huh? That's fine. We'll figure that out. Cool. So let's jump right in to our questions. I have not read these ahead of time, and I don't have answers. So let's just figure it out. From our patron, Iquin, I have prepared this awesome scene / encounter / can I turn my volume up a bit? Yeah. How about that? Let's try it again. From our patron Iquin, I have prepared this awesome scene / encounter / social thing over here, but my players are going over here. What should I do now? This feels like a cop-out answer. Move the thing. Yeah, so only you know that the scene or encounter or social thing was tied to a location. So the simple thing is to take that scene or encounter or social interaction and move it wherever the players are going. The players don't have any spatial concept of the map at large, and unless there is a significant reason why that encounter must happen in this location, just move it to a new location. If it has to happen in a room because there's a thing in the room, move that thing to another room. Move that person to another room. Move the person to another town. Have that person, if for a social interaction, be waylaid on the side of the road. Have bandits attack them. Have their cartwheel broken down. Have their spaceship get pulled over. Right? There's no reason why, or there might be, but there's usually no reason why that scene can't happen elsewhere. Am I crazy? I casted this to my TV and now I don't have sound. That does sound like a you problem. It is very strange. You should have sound. Kendall sounds like you. Yeah, well, cool. We have another question here. I'm going to bounce around a little bit. We have a question from G. I always struggle with creating interesting NPCs for my players to interact with. What are some tips to make characters my players will want to talk to and engage with? Cool. I love this. So make key NPCs, right? So not every NPC is going to be interesting, right? Think about it like a video game, right? Not every villager in the town is worthy of conversation. But some of them are. Some of them have a cool thing, or they're quest givers, or they are, have little tidbits of lore. So what I do is for a big NPC, like a quest giver, or like a lore person, or like a patron or a mentor, I'll usually have the characters make some up, or the players make some up, and then I just give them additional points of life. But what I'll do is I will pick a voice, or it's not a voice, but like it's not a voice, and it's not a mannerism, but like pick an inflection. That's the word I'm looking for. So if you're not good at voices, maybe the character talks really fast. Maybe he talks in a high pitched voice, right? Or maybe he talks really slow. Or there's like a bunch of different ways that you can go from your normal speaking voice to something else that isn't necessarily a voice. You can also add in mannerisms. And so for your regular characters, like your regular NPCs, maybe they don't have as many of those things. So when you have a more bombastic presence of this character, players will be like, oh, there's something about this character. He seems bigger, or they seem bigger than the rest of them, right? For other characters that are like secondary NPCs that the players may talk to, a couple times, or might be like the barkeep in their favorite bar, right? What I'll do is I'll write down a few notes. I will write down, how does he sound? How does he move? How does he whatever, right? What's an interesting fact about this guy? Does he have a peg leg? That's weird. Not everyone has that. Why does he have a peg leg? You don't have to answer all the questions, but like. And then you just kind of bring that out into conversation. Like they've been seeing this guy at the bar for a couple days. They've been here for, a week in town. And one day the server is sick. And so he brings out the food, and you can hear the thunk, thunk of his peg leg making its way across the floor, right? So give them an interesting quirk. Give them an interesting mannerism, an interesting quirk, an interesting voice, something along those lines. But my trick is I don't do that to every single person. I've seen plenty of GMs give every single character some kind of unique something, and I get burnt out doing that. But also, if every character seems unique, then none of them are unique, right? I absolutely have some generic characters or some generic NPCs that I just use my own voice for, or I just explain what they say. I don't actually say it in character. So those are a few ways that you can sort of add a little bit of spice, a little bit of flair, a little bit of salt to the top of these characters, and make them just slightly more interesting. Cool. I'm gonna hop over and look at chat real quick. Waiting to take notes. I need a random personality generator. Well, so G, since you're in chat and you asked this question, you said I need a random personality generator. A great way to do it is to look at is to look at people, right? So, like on the news or on TV or in life, a coworker, or a movie or a TV show, like something like that, right? Like pick a character that you like and then break that character down. What makes them likable, right? How do they act, right? Like think about Monk, right, from the TV show Monk, because I'm elderly now, from like 2000 whatever. He touched everything, right? So that's a weird trait that someone could have. So you can find these little quirks in everyday life. It makes it very easy to like look around and just sort of take that little nugget and put it into a character. And not everyone has to know where that character came from, right? If a person you know, or a person you've seen on TV or something speaks a certain way, then you can kind of steal that and put it in there. I had a campaign. I had a campaign when we first started streaming, and there was a megalomaniac oligarch type character who was kind of a shitheel, and his name was like Danald Drumpf or something like that, and it was obviously a satirical version of Trump, given this was also like 2000 something, 2015, 16. But I took his mannerisms and his over the top ridiculous things he says, and I used that for a character. Or for an NPC that was supposed to be reviled and hated. I think it worked out well. Cool. So I hope that answers your question. Let's see. Trevor, a patron, says, if I can do it, so can you. What is one piece of advice you'd give to newcomers trying to start off doing actual play streaming? Cool. I actually get a question like this quite often. My first answer, and I've said this in podcasts and other interviews before, my first answer is don't. Don't stream your actual play. And that goes back to, like, you know, the meme of not every white guy needs a podcast. Not every actual play, or not every campaign needs an actual play, and not every actual play needs a stream, right? If you want to stream actual plays, figure out why. Why do you want to stream it? Do you want views? Do you just want an archive of your game? What kind of game do you have? What makes your game different? Right? You have to think about, like, if there's thousands of actual plays out there, why would anyone want to watch yours? And I know that sounds cynical, but that's kind of the mindset you have to think of, is what do I bring that is different than what other people are doing? Am I doing the same as 50 other people? Cool. Then why is anyone going to watch your thing? So I would say there's a lot of like background thought of why you're even bothering to stream your actual play. Is it for you? Great. If it's for you, do whatever you want, right? Put it on stream. Don't expect anyone to be there. That's absolutely fine, right? If it's for viewership, or if it's for, you know, monetary gain, there's a lot that goes into thinking that. That being said, my number one tip for streaming your actual play: you don't need a super fancy overlay. You can make them yourself. You can make them in Canva, which is free. Don't have the majority of your screen be pictures. No one is in your stream to see your pretty pictures. They are there for the story, and they are there to see your faces emote that story. If there are 4 players and 1 GM in your stream, your 5 faces should take up the majority of the stream. If you go back and look at our older stuff, we had tiny little windows. In fact, there's actually some streams you can't even look up anymore that have incredibly small windows that were just like on the top. They're just like 5 little faces on the top of the screen, and then a big graphic on the bottom. No one's here for that. If you look at our last, 3 or 4 years worth of streams, our overlays all look the same with a different graphic behind them and a different color on the overlay. And it is our faces take up the majority of the screen, because people are there to see you play your character, tell your story, emote however you want to emote. And if you're in a 1 inch by 1 inch cube, no one's going to see you do that. So that is my go-to answer. There's a twofer. Why do you want to stream? Figure that out. And 2, make your faces the biggest thing on the screen. Let's see. Let's jump over to chat real quick. We have a chat. Man, I'm gonna butcher this. Juanma Barranquero. I hope I nailed that, or at least got close to. Lectu, I know that's you, and I know you've sent me your name and how to say it before, but I am a butcher of names. Question: differences other than technical between GMing and preparing a game at home and for a stream actual play. Ooh, subjective question. I'll give you 2 answers here. For some people, there is a lot of difference, right? I don't prepare maps. I don't. Sometimes in at home I might prepare a map. I know at home I want to get more into terrain building. I want to get more into like a projector. So there, that I guess that falls under technical. For a lot of people, they feel that when the camera's on, they are on. There's a level of like acting. There's a level of like you bring more to the character, you bring more to the screen than you do at your home tables. For me, I don't think I have much of a difference. Showmanship. There you go. That's the word. Showmanship. There's a degree of additional showmanship on stream than there is off stream. Now we have a good friend of mine, Kendall, in the comments right now, or in the chat right now. I don't think as a GM or as a player, unless we have new players at the table and I'm trying to make them comfortable, I don't think that there's much of a difference between my GM / play style on screen as there is between my GM and player style on screen or off screen. I think I'm fairly the same, both of them. The difference is I might be fucking off on my phone a little bit at the table. I might get up and go to the bathroom. I might eat a bunch of chips. I might house a slice of pizza. So other than like non-streamed, G and Melissa are actually in non-streamed games with me. And I don't think there's much difference. There's a screen, but Kendall's the only person that's in this chat currently who has physically been in the same place as me playing around an actual table. You are less animated off screen, but not by much. Yeah, so for me, there's not much difference between GMing and preparing a game at home. My prep style for games in general, I have sort of boiled my prep style down to a title of the episode, a recap of the episode, or a little introduction story, and then 3 scenes, and each scene has 3 bullet points of like goals I have for that scene or beats I want to hit in that scene, and that's it. And I use that same prep template for live streams and for at home. So I don't prep any differently, and I don't emote much differently. The only thing I will say is I used to do maps. I don't do maps anymore. I used to like hand draw maps. I do more theater of the mind now at home. And in the future, I would like to get into terrain building and using minis for that kind of stuff. And that I won't do on stream because it's far too much technical work for me to actually set up a overhead crane boom nonsense. It's not for me. It's not for me. Let's see here. G says, I like seeing people's reactions and when they laugh, talking about your face is taking up the majority of the screen. Yeah, that's true. That's true, Kendall. Back in the day, that is a memory we try to bury. Kendall was one of our first viewers. And he came through in a time, this goes back to Trevor's question about when I said about the screens taking up the whole thing. Our setup used to be a webcam far away, probably a good 10 feet from the closest person, 3 couches making a U shape with a big glass table in the middle of us with a Blue Yeti mic in the center, just picking us up podcast style. And then every time we'd roll the dice on the glass table, everyone in the audience's ears would just get blown out because it would be so damn loud. It was a terrible angle. We looked awful. It was the fattest angle we could pick for any of us. And it was very unflattering. And there was no way to disguise that. So that was our first ever camera angle. It was bad. It was a bad time. Rough times for sure. Let's see here. I think those prep docs are on the Patreon right now. Yeah, we're starting to add the prep documents to the Patreon for the last 2 weeks of streams. So basically, if you are unfamiliar, the patrons get a thing called the after show, which is a 20 to 30, sometimes an hour long show where the players and the GM of that game discuss what happened in that game, what their favorite moments are, what made them laugh, what they hope for in future episodes. And I have begun, on anything that I GM, I have begun taking my notes, printing them out as a PDF, and putting them up there so you can see my prep notes, so you can compare what I prepped to what you saw on screen. There's a video of the couch cam set up on the wiki. Oh, God. Gross. Awful. Is it Nike? How do you say it? You let me know. Question, is there a game system that you'd like to play but haven't tried yet? Either just a lack of time or time for something new, or a lack of folks interested in joining that particular system. Ooh, yeah, so many. Let's see. I have Twilight 2000 from Year Zero on my list. Haven't played it. I don't let Necro hear this, but I want to get back into Symbaroum. I felt like I didn't know the system when I tried to run it before. Neek. Okay. Oh, okay, cool. I felt like I didn't know the system before, and so I killed my campaign that was in there. Um, I actually have a book on my desk right now that's called Shattered City, which I was reading through probably like a year ago, and I thought was really cool and might be like a very interesting Patreon experiment because there's like a whole section where like the city itself has moves, and I was thinking about having the patrons run like a world turn, like what happens in the city. Um, what else? What else? There's a book I have in my pile. Um, oh God, it's I don't know what it's called. Um, but I believe it is powered by the apocalypse. Is the system, is the base system. But you play you play as humans in a industrial Victorian era kind of setting, but the nobility are all vampires, and so you can either pay your taxes with silver or you can pay your taxes with blood, and so they're literally bleeding the city dry. They're bleeding the masses dry, and so a faction of humans have said, "Fuck this, we're done with you," and they have gone into the ancient forests and made a pact with the Fae. And the Fae aren't like fun Fae. They're like, the more old school trickster Fae. And so they are given these masks, but the masks, the more you use them, the more they like eat away at your soul, kind of thing. But it gives them the power to kill, to fight against the vampire overlords, which is very cool. I think I backed it on Kickstarter. And I have the book, and I've just never played it. I read through it. It's a very short book. It's maybe like, I don't know, 50 or 60 pages, not even. And I read through it. It looks very fun, and I just haven't had the time to play it. I want to play it with Dot and Greg. Actually, I want Dot and Greg to co-GM the game. Is what I really want, which I think would be freaking awesome. So yeah, there are plenty of systems that I have not had the time to play. Rarely is it a lack of folks interested. I'll try anything. The biggest problem is I'm lazy and I don't read books. So if you want to introduce a system to me that I've never played and you can run it, I'm far more apt to play that. But I'm not a big reader of books. I am lazy. It's not called Undying. It's called something. I can literally see the side of the book. I can see the side of the book right here, but I can't actually read what it's called. I will find out. I'll find out and put it in the Discord. Cool. Let's see what other questions we have here. Melissa, I'd love a whole episode dedicated to here's a lazy zombie streamer's guide to setting up an actual play stream. Okay. All right. Not really a question. But yeah, I would be the go-to person for lazy. Everything I have is templated. I have because of the way my brain functions, I have made templates for everything. So which is, it can be lazy. Like if you look at our overlays for the last several years, they're all the same. And what I do is I open up an overlay and then I change the colors of the boxes and I replace the image in the background and then I custom make a title for it and then I put it up there and I change the names. So really I just change a few things. And honestly, the same thing in my OBS in my OBS setup, I do the same thing. I already have it built in OBS and I literally right click, copy the collection and I just put in the new graphics and then make sure everything works. So after uh, years of custom making things over and over and over again, I template it out and make it easier for myself. It's one less thing for me to stress about, so I make it as simple as possible. And with OBS and Streamlabs OBS, I think they both have a wizard that will like run on your computer and automatically set the proper like streaming bit rate and all that kind of stuff based on your computer's performance. So yeah, it is, the bar for entry in streaming is super, super low. It's far lower than it used to be, which is great because it's very easy to do. Everyone can sort of jump in there and get on that, which I think is fun. Let's see here. What else we got? Not asking for specifics, but have you had to throw someone out of one of your games? Hoo, boy. Yes. Yes, I have. Here's what I will say. It didn't go well. There is a person in one of our shows that was in season 1, and then the show went on for several more seasons, and that person was not invited back. That's what I'll say. Any more than that is stirring the pot. They were not invited back. They were not asked to return. They were told that the show would be carrying on into season 2 without them. And that part went well. It was the aftermath of that part that sort of exploded. So, yeah, not great. I'm trying to think, have we had any other people have to not get asked back? No, knock on wood, we've had a relatively drama-free community and show here. And so a lot of the people not getting asked back is entirely behind the scenes, and primarily it is due to somebody went on the internet and showed off their whole ass and was like, said some dumb ignorant shit, and then I was just like, well, you're not getting us back to places. And it was never a confrontation. It was just like, okay, I'm just not going to invite you to future things. The thing we did is already done, and now going forward, you won't be on the list of people who are potential future cast members, which is great. That's not been the case for a lot of people I know, and a lot of like streaming communities that I know. There's been a lot of things that shake up a community. And we have fortunately stayed relatively clear of those things, which is great for me. Let's see here. G is asking some questions about, God, I'm gonna hate this. I did open myself up in the Discord for any questions related to GMing, role-playing, streaming, terrible parenting advice, basically anything that I do, you can ask questions about. So G asked a couple questions here. Let's see here. What is the best thing you've learned about yourself as a dad now that Levi is 2? My short temper isn't as short as I thought it was. It turns out I can have a lot more patience for a 2-year-old than I can have for most of the world. No, I think the biggest thing that I have learned, had to learn, am still learning, is like the new parenting trend is gentle parenting. And there are extremes of that, and there's extremes of whatever, and the correlation is like, I had a traumatic past with my family, and that may be true. I didn't. I have a very good family life. Like my parents and I are still super duper close together. We hang out all the time. But there are things that, like, I know I have ADHD, so I know I'm neurodivergent, and I know that that my partner is neurodivergent, so the likelihood of my son being that way is the same. And I have found over the last year that he responds so much better to things the way I respond to them. If you tell me something and I don't understand why, like if you say, "Hey, get your shoes on and get in the car," and I don't understand why, the likelihood of me fussing about it is so much higher. So I've had to take the time and be like I'll wake him up from a nap and I'll be like, "All right, hey bud, we're gonna go downstairs," and he's like, "No, I don't want to go downstairs, no." And I'm like, "All right, listen, here's the deal. We just got up from our nap. We're gonna go change your diaper. We're gonna go downstairs. We're gonna have a snack, and then we're gonna watch this TV show." And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'm down for that." And that's me to this day. That's my biggest strife in the military. Is anytime like a superior in the military is like, "Hey, this needs to get done," I'm like, "Why? What's the goal of why you're saying this? What do you want to achieve by doing this act?" Because the end goal might the act of what you're saying to do might not be the best way to achieve the end goal. Let's work together on this. And my son seems to be the exact same way. So explaining through things and taking a minute, and this is the difficult part is like, one, breaking it down to people and not just expecting them to jump. But two, even when he's overstimulated and overwhelmed and whatever, and it's one of those weird moments where like I just saw a TikTok about it the other day. It is because children have no reference point or knowledge up to this point on how to regulate their emotions. You have to regulate their emotions for them. So you like have to let them feel whatever they're feeling, or explain your way through their emotions, or like talk them down. And what sucks is when they're having emotional dysregulation, usually you are too. So you kind of have to stuff yours down, regulate theirs, and then once they're okay, then you can be like, "Oh, I was overwhelmed too," and you feel your feelings, which like it's instinctual for you to do the opposite. Like if you're feeling feelings, your first thing is to be like, "I want to feel these," but you have to it's kind of like on the plane when they say put your it's the opposite of what they say on the plane, where they say put your oxygen mask on first, and then the person next to you kind of have to do the opposite. You have to like regulate them first and then regulate yourself, or hope that you have time to regulate yourself. But that's probably the biggest thing, the biggest thing I've learned with him. G had a follow-up question, which is alternatively, what is the hardest thing you've learned about being a dad? My son has the shortest attention span in the fucking world. I struggle with stuff. So for me, my partner goes to work at 8:00, and so from 8:00 to like 12:30 when he goes to nap, that's 4.5 hours that I have to fill with stuff. And because my son has squirrel brain and has the attention span of a goldfish, I will plan out in my adult brain 10 things. And I'm like, cool, these 10 things should take a couple hours. And I did it for weeks. I'd plan out these things. It could take a couple hours. And then my son blows through them in 45 minutes. And I'm like, now what? Now I have 3.5 hours to figure out what to do with this kid. And I don't know what to do with him. And I'm out of ideas because I can't improv toddler games on the spot. I'm very much waiting for when he's like 4 or 5, because he doesn't really have the concept of like active imagination. Like we can't play swords. He doesn't get it, right? We can't like build a fort and be knights in a castle because he doesn't get it. He's not at a mental understanding level. So that is a struggle. Is I am prepared to play with an elementary school age child. I am not prepared to play with a toddler. And unfortunately for me, my kid is a toddler. Is my biggest thing. I do Kendall said I plan more for the kid than I do for GMing, and that's 100% accurate. Melissa, thank you for joining us in the what the hell is it called? YouTube membership. Thank you for joining and being a YouTube member. Welcome to the new Minion crew over here. Better than Twitch. Cool. Let's see what else we got here. Questions from the patrons. We got a question from El Profo, our patron here. What sage Lich wisdom would you impart to someone returning to DMing? What I would do is I would go on the internet and I would find the GIF of Shia LaBeouf going, just do it. That's what I would do. I would send that person that GIF over and over again until they did it. What I did for G when she was worried about GMing online was I just said, do it. And I just kept saying that until she caved and did it. So that's what I would do personally. That's my sage wisdom I would impart on somebody, is I would harass them until they did it. As long as you're friends with the person. But what for real usable wisdom could I impart on somebody? Don't overthink it. Right? Like, don't compare yourself to a Matthew Mercer, a Brennan Lee Mulligan. Hell, don't even compare yourself to me. Not that I'm in the same category as either of them. Don't overthink it. Your friends, your table, arguably, is there to have a good time. Unless you're just GMing for a bunch of random strangers in a store or at a convention, and that's a hell of a time to jump back into GMing. But ostensibly, your friends are getting together to have a friendly, fun time, and in doing so, also tell a fun story. If I have a D&D game or a tabletop game and we plan it for 4 hours and the first hour is us catching up and eating pizza and the last hour is us saying goodbyes and cleaning up stuff and we only played for 2 hours in the middle there, great time. If we play for the whole, if everyone shows up and we play for the whole 4 hours, great time. If we schedule for 4 hours and we play for 6 hours, great time. Your friends, your tabletop community are there to have fun, so don't stress out. The other thing is, you're not in charge of their fun. You are responsible for your own fun. The GM is a player, but every player is responsible for their own fun. If they like something or don't like something, it is their responsibility to tell the GM. It is not your responsibility to pull their teeth out and be like, what do you want? How can I be better? You come together, you say, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. You go around, everyone says the same thing. Then you play the game and you have fun. And you play the game. You play. You're all playing. You're all playing to have fun. Just like you're 10 years old playing in the woods with a friend and a stick. You're playing. So just have fun. Don't overthink it. Have fun. You're not responsible for everyone else's fun at the table. You are responsible for helping to navigate a narrative. And that is it. Helping to navigate a narrative and helping to, what's the word? There's a word for it. Regulate the rules, to be like the referee, more or less. Or just play until someone has to do laundry. Deep cut there. I did. G, you're right. G said, I'm terrified to stream, to GM on stream, and I said, you'll be fine, you nerd. And then she did it. Facilitate, that's a great word. Not the one I was looking for, but absolutely a great word. Let's see. What else? We got a question here from Iquin. I want the group to be challenged in their play, but combat is so boring after we've done it forever. Could you give me some tips on what to do? Tip number 1. Do less combat. Do less combat. I have a campaign going on right now that we have played monthly for 2 years now, and we haven't done combat one time. So we played, let's say 2.5 hours times 24. We haven't done a single combat. I'm planning on doing combat soon, but we have not done a single combat. So if combat is boring, my question is, who is it boring for? Is it boring for you? Then you need to figure out things that make combat more fun for you. If it's boring for your players, then just straight up ask them, hey, I've noticed that like between turns, people are on their phones, are, fucking off or whatever. What's the deal? Are you bored? How can I help? What would make it more interesting? It's funny when people do ask GM stuff. So many of the real answers of the questions are ask your table. And it's so easy to forget to do that, right? It's to think of like, oh, I have to problem solve and I have to fix this thing. It's on me because I'm the GM. Just ask your table. What do they like? Other answers are like terrain. Add interesting terrain. Describe. Offer to let them describe. Describe and enhance. So a thing that I will often do is say, okay, how do you do this thing? Or let me know what that looks like. And then I will take what they said and I will recap what they said and then sort of pass the ball over to the next person in initiative order. I'll be like, this player, you see him do this thing and he slices through and you see the blade go through the wolf or whatever. What do you do in response to that, right? And I sort of keep it going with that. I like it as a more cinematic combat, right? It sort of passes the ball over that like almost what is it? The Tai Chi of combat. You just sort of pass that energy flow. And even when I have a player who like gives like a far more like relaxed answer, like, oh yeah, I hit him with the thing. Maybe I'll add a little bit of flair and I'll hype it up more because I want that combat energy to be high, like an action movie. I frame everything I do in a cinematic, like this is a movie or a TV show kind of thing. So. The other thing I would say is combat only needs to be as long as it needs to be. So, weird answer. I don't put combat in for no reason. The combat must serve the narrative. I rarely, if ever, use random encounter tables. And when I do, I make that encounter drive the narrative forward in some way. There's some kind of clue there or there's some sort of relevance to this attack. But the combat only needs to be as long as it is cool. If you see the players are starting to not have fun, the monster has 10 less hit points, right? Like, just because the monsters have stats in a book, your players don't see that. So behind the GM screen or behind your forehead or whatever, you have the stats and you can change them. There are definitely times where I've had monsters that I made stats for and my players smoked it so fast and I was like, man, plus 50 more hit points. Hell, in the recent Shattered Crown episode where they fought the wolves, the Great Wolf of the North, like the main bad guy in that fight, had one might point, which means as soon as you give him an injury, he dies. And I think whoever hit him first might have been Noir, killed him immediately. And I was like, no, no, you don't get to kill my boss encounter immediately or my mini boss encounter immediately. And so I gave him an extra 1 or 2 might, or I think I gave him an extra 1 might. Because I was like, it needs to be, this is like a dramatic move. This is like one of their first big fights. And Noir specifically had been asking for combat for several sessions. So I'm like, no, you don't get to kill the big bad wolf in 1 hit. And it was exciting. He was fighting back and forth with this thing. The other wolves were doing things. But you can also add other objectives into the combat. Like that same combat, for example, in Shattered Crown, there was a woman getting dragged away by a wolf. There was another man getting dragged away by the wolf, and the way I described it is they couldn't tell if they couldn't tell if the man being dragged away was alive. So like now you have that issue of like, okay, we have to kill these wolves, but we also have a person who is getting dragged away and another person is getting dragged away, and who's okay, who's in worse condition, where do we have to prioritize? So give them more things to do than just the combat, right? You're fighting in a cave and all of a sudden a crystal starts to glow and resonate. What does it mean? Do we stop? Do we go over there? Is it going to explode? Is it a power source? Can we use it? You can add a bunch of other random things into the combat to make it more dynamic, is a good word for that. Kendall says, what game was it where we smoked a juvenile green dragon in one combat round? That was when Mike, a.k.a. Rhino, ran us through Lost Mines of Phandelver. We had an impossible scenario where we had 2 ranged people in a tower, and then I had a big, meaty tank, which was me, in the doorway, and then Kendall was a forge cleric, I believe, who was behind me, healing and hitting with ranged as I just stopped the dragon from attacking anybody, and then Mike rolled terrible, and the 2 ranged people just kicked the shit out of it. It was great. Maybe get the players involved to see what they like in a combat scenario. Yeah, exactly. It's the random encounters that can drag shit along. Yep, for sure. Welcome in, Luke. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. That is an answered question from Iquin. We have time for, let's see, one more. My goal was to hit an hour, and I think we are about to hit that hour. We have one from TikTok, which if you guys aren't following us on TikTok, we are at unMadeGaming on every social media platform. So I have some tips and advice over on TikTok that I haven't posted on in several years, but I will be repurposing some of these in a different format over on the TikToks. So via TikTok, an oldie but a goodie, Rose, has asked 3 tips for new GMs. Tip 1, steal everything. There are name generators, loot generators, NPC generators for almost every game out there. There are plenty of generic ones. There are map generators. Steal everything. Plot of a movie, plot of a book, plot of a song. Steal everything. You don't have to create everything yourself. That's the first one. New GM tip number 2. Session 0. Have a session 0. If you set up a game and you say we're going to have a session 0 and someone says, ooh, I don't like those, get them out of there. They don't need to be there. Have a session 0. I have session 0s for friends. Set up a session 0. Discuss what you want the campaign to be, what you, the GM, want the campaign to be. Ask your players what they want the campaign to be. Collate. All of you are there to tell a story. If you, the GM, are the only one there to tell a story, that's called a novel. You are there to tell an improvisational narrative together. Cooperate. Compare notes. Get that in there. Talk about safety in your session 0. Talk about lines and veils. Talk about your safety tools, your X and O card. There's a list of tools out there that are available. Those are just 2 that I prefer. I know people like the pause and rewind, or the skip, like a old, so like a VCR, like a DVD player, I guess. So that's the 3rd tip. So plan a session 0, sit down. And tip number 3, don't plan the whole campaign. When you plan the whole campaign from start to finish, you are far more prone to railroading. It's far easier to railroad. It's like when there's a map, people will look at the map and not improv what they think they might see. Oh, is there a chandelier? Oh, well, there isn't a chandelier on the map, so there must not be one, right? So don't plan from start to finish. Plan, highlights. So this is a thing that happens at the start of the campaign. This is a thing that happens in this town. This is a thing that happens here. And then let it sort of evolve organically, right? So don't say A leads to B, leads to C, leads to D, because that's a railroad. That's a track. Put A leads to B, C, or D. And then based on where they go, that could go somewhere else. And if you did plan for, like one of our previous questions, if you did plan for this encounter and they don't go there, you have an encounter planned. You just take that encounter and put it in your little encounter drawer. And then next time you need a new encounter, you look through your little files and go, oh, you know what I made? I made this one, and reuse it. I have rerun the same campaign or same adventure in multiple campaigns over time. I just save my favorite campaigns. I save my favorite modules, and I rerun them all the time. Some of the same players have played through them, but in different campaigns, in different formats, and they have no idea that it was the same thing. So yeah, those are my 3 tips for new GMs. That's it. That's all I got. That's it. It's 5 of 9 my time. That's we hit about an hour here. We're gonna do these once a month. Probably on the 3rd Monday, random date, but it just so happened to be that this was the 3rd Monday. So we'll probably keep to the 3rd Monday of the month. Again, if you are a Patreon over at patreon.com/unMadeGaming, you will have priority on your questions to be answered. I think we made it through most, if not all, of the Patreon questions. We'll have them there. You can also ask questions over on our TikTok. Whenever I put up a post, I'll probably do a post every month saying, hey, it's Ask Lich time. And we'll be answering questions live. So the more people that show up live, the more questions we'll have. They'll get added to our backlog, and we will make our way through those anytime we run out of questions. But that's it. That's all I got, guys. If you like it here and you like what we do here and you want to support our channel, the best way to do that is, again, over on our Patreon, patreon.com/unMadeGaming. And make sure you check us out over in our Discord. Be a part of the community. Be a part of the conversation. Join us for all these chats and all kinds of fun talks with each other. And that's it. That's all I got. So from all of us to you guys, we'll see you next time. Bye.